do me a favor, you just mute the mic, uh, come back on.
Yes.
Okay. Let me know when you're ready. All right. So good afternoon. Be able to share the opportunity to be with Mike and Angela. How do you pronounce your last name?
Block.
We still got some echo. So you got an echo. So we're gonna keep on going. All right, awesome. So while you guys checking up your mic, I'm gonna every time Mike, Andrea, just hear me out, right? When it's time for you to go, you unmic yourself and then you speak, all right? But Mike and Andrea Block. Mike, I spoke to you for quite a bit of time. We've chatted for a little bit, right? And I've spoke to Dave. I know your story. I decided to put this up here 9/11, right? And Andrea, you reached out to me, but the biggest thing I want you guys to understand that is very important that on this Sunday, pre 9/11, right? Pre 9/11, it's very fitting that we have the discussion. So, Mike and Andrea, let's just listen to me. I was watching the Sunday morning news, and I was watching Sleepy Joe, and Sleepy Joe just making this. We talked about the 22 years of what's happening in Afghanistan, and the last 2 years of what happened in not only Afghanistan but in Iraq, but the last 2 years in Afghanistan. And he comes out there. They show him a Sunday morning news, and I swear he just says, "Thank God for the Taliban for helping us out." So, getting back to what we're talking about, it's fitting, Mike, as you're an operator, right? I come from an operating community, but I want to support you and your wife. So, you guys, please introduce yourself. But moving forward, right before you guys get on the mic, if you like this segment of LinkedIn Perspective, share it, like it, tag it. This is a virtual town hall for all the individuals that are subscribing to the YouTube channel LinkedIn. Feel free to subscribe that, copy and paste on LinkedIn Live Perspective. But the biggest thing I want you guys to understand that this is prior to 9/11, and Mike and Andrea, especially Mike, and then I'm going to hear Andrea from a woman's point of view, how it is to be able to support an operator, a Marine, and what's going on. You guys go for it. Go.
Thank you, Haran. Thank you. Just want to say first, thank you to everyone out there for all of your support. We're very heavily invested in social media right now for obvious purposes and reasons. And so we're tracking all the comments, the support, everyone that's sharing their story and giving us these opportunities. Thank you for that. Because without that, we would be dead in the water. And so thank you. I think that it's a hard day. 9/11 to come up on that anniversary every year. It's a solemn day for me because the reason that I decided to join
Mike. Put it on mute. Your mic is getting a little bit, nobody can hear it. As you start seeing people saying, got a lot of echoes. You got a lot of echoes on there, right? They're having issues hearing you. Okay. Just check your mic and see what's going on as we're going on there, right? Because a lot of people are just asking a lot of questions. So just going around real quick, if you can check your audio, check your mic again. All right. We'll see what happens from this point on. But here we go. Last person, fix your mic. So here we go.
All right. How's this? Is that any better? No. Is that any better?
So what's going to happen right now is Mike's going to try to go back in again. So I apologize for the inconvenience, but hey, we'll just stay on here until Mike comes in, and we'll see if he turns off his radio for sure. So we're working on getting Mike to be getting back inside. He's having the echoes. So we'll make sure that let me text him and make sure he turn down your phone volume. He's coming back in there. So this is what happens when you come in live. All right.
Can you guys hear us now?
Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. All right, Mike.
Sorry about that.
Apologies. So just, we just got off of the road driving back from North Carolina. So we left this morning, 6-7 hour drive as it should be, turned into something a little bit longer. So apologies, just scrambling, trying to get us together. So going back to what I was saying with 9/11 and the importance of that day, it's the reason that I joined the military. It was the reason that we're here today talking about this. It created the catalyst for an entire generation of Americans, to have experiences in a global war on terror that, you really don't have a precedent for. World War II had its own, issues and challenges that the veterans of that war faced, as well as Korea and Vietnam and, all of our wars that we fought. The global war on terror was a little bit different, I think. And in that, it was a prolonged war that had a lot of attention due to advances in technology, and just the natural evolution of society and globalization and everyone's access to that information. It was a very important time in America's history, but now it's closed, essentially. That loop has closed, yet the war hasn't stopped for some of us. The effects of that are very relevant, and it's important that we talk about those things, and so I'm very happy that I have an opportunity through my story, through the adversity that I've faced, to be able to bring light to that, bring light to the issues of mental health, bring light to the issues that come from these invisible wounds from decades of war. PTSD and traumatic brain injury are very real. And oftentimes, service members don't even know that they're suffering from these things because it's so nuanced. And, honestly, it's because the machine trains us to push through it, because you have to be able to continue the mission and be able to accomplish that. And so in order to push through all of that adversity, we're taught how to do that. We're trained how to do that. But it doesn't serve us when we leave that active role engaged in that type of environment, and no one teaches you how to deal with that. There is no playbook. And unfortunately, my story is one where, there's extreme challenges when the system turns its back on you and becomes the very thing that's hunting you now. The very thing that you signed up and swore to protect and defend now turns its back. And so that is where we are today. And Adriana and myself, we're surrounded by a great network, a great support network and community within not only just, the very niche special operations community that I come from, but the larger military community and then patriotic Americans, that community.
We're very blessed to have that support, but right now we need that support to take action and advocate on our behalf, because this could be any veteran. The situation here is much bigger than just my story. And I think that's why, talking about it today, right before 9/11, I would hope that can resonate with the American people. I hope that my story is one that we have the ability as a society to change the course of that story in flight. Like as the story is unfolding, we have an opportunity as a society to write the course and show how we should treat our veterans when they come home from the very ugly things that we go ask them to do. And I think that we have an opportunity here to do that. We just need to get the right people involved, focused on the right outcomes, and we'll get there.
Andrea.
Yes.
Your turn.
Yes. So, hi everyone. I'm Michael Block's wife. And just to echo that, I think what's interesting about global war on terror is that it just ended. I would argue it's not over, but it technically ended 2 years ago. So you've got 2 decades worth of war fighters. Some have not even gotten out of service yet. Like they're not even done their time in service. And my husband's story is a cautionary tale to society, because he is the face of every combat veteran. You're supposed to be able to go to the VA when you have a crisis or when you're struggling, if you even know you're struggling, and you're supposed to trust that system is there for you to support you. And you shouldn't have to double check what they're doing for you. And my husband's now another statistic of the VA not getting it right. And for all the things they've done to improve, you can see through things like our tragedy where there's failures. And we tried to work with the North Carolina justice system through our incident, and they were unwilling to work with us. It's almost like the message is, my husband's not the right kind of combat veteran for them. What I've noticed is elected officials love using veterans for parades and campaign agendas and PR stunts, but they pick and choose the parts of the experience of a veteran and their families to get those votes. My husband is showing you what the collateral damages are of war and the things that you can't see. It's not just physical injuries. A big hallmark of GWAT, and for GWAT veterans that experience combat, is PTSD and TBIs. And that doesn't look the same for everybody. And it takes sometimes a community around you, a close-knit network, a spouse, your children, close family and friends. But how many GWAT veterans come home to no one? And they don't have anybody there that can support them through these experiences. And my husband did all the right things. He went to the VA when he started noticing symptoms, or really I started noticing his symptoms. And now the system that's supposed to be there to protect you is turning its back on you. And so we ask people if they're seeing this today, and if you're connected to elected officials, share our message, because it's just getting started. GWAT veterans are just now really starting to integrate back into civilian life, which does not have a playbook. There is no pamphlet when you get out. Here's what you might deal with when you get out of service. You go from having this unique experience, and I think when you're active duty, at least my experience with my husband is that he had his brothers right there with him, and they would experience things together. And then they get out, and now they're no longer living near each other. They're not in the same routines together. Now they're back in integrated in civilian life immediately. And they have to really rely on the network around them. And our society needs to do a better job of supporting them and understanding that this is the dark sides of war, things like what my husband experienced. And yeah, that isn't sexy. It's not a soundbite. You don't put that through a parade, but maybe we should. Maybe we need to start exposing what are the real challenges to veterans. It's not just, go out there and do a 5K. Like, what else are we doing for veterans? Like, really, what else are we doing when you all need the support that you need? And the legal system should be set up to support you. I think there's nothing more tragic than after Vietnam and now at the end of GWAT, a lot of the local and state level judicial systems have figured out they need to set up courts for when veterans have run-ins with the law, when there's an intersection. And they stood up these court systems called veteran treatment courts. And they're supposed to support veterans when they have these intersections with the law, so that if it's because of time and service injuries or disabilities, because they can be one and the same, sometimes they can be different, that instead of just making a veteran a statistic and throwing them in prison with actual criminals, there is a system there to help them get the treatment they need so that they can integrate back into society and continue to be the upstanding citizens that they are, as a thank you for all that they did to sacrifice. Because remember, we don't have a draft. We don't have a draft. All of these warfighters chose voluntarily to risk their lives. They miss birthdays. They miss weddings. They've seen friends die right in front of them. They have injuries they can never fully heal from. And the least we can do is set up treatment courts for when they have run-ins with the law, if they do, so that they have a chance to really get back into society the right way. And what's really tragic here is there is one in Onslow County. And the DA has made the determination, my husband's story doesn't fit the model he's determining should be what the treatment court is for. And that's really a shame, because the treatment court is not just for DUIs or low offending drug charges like marijuana. Like, let's talk about the real things that veterans deal with when they have a mental health crisis. And that does sometimes have a run-in with the law. Why isn't that deserving of being in the treatment court? And that's what I was advocating for so long. For almost a year, we worked with our legal team down there to work with them to say, hey, open that aperture. Let these kinds of cases be in the treatment court to show society that veterans should not be vilified. They're not broken, damaged creatures. They're human beings, and they had a mental health crisis. And what can we do to support them so they don't end up just in prison? And I think there's a misunderstanding where that system down there in Onslow County is trying to tell us that it's not a deferment court. Treatment courts are deferment courts. They're supposed to be used in lieu of taking charges. Why would a veteran take a conviction, go serve time, and then go on their own through a court-ordered treatment? Why would they want to ever go utilize a court system that just punished them, basically? That makes no sense. When there's lots of nonprofits and state-run facilities that have treatment programs that run the gamut, whether it's addiction issues, mental health issues, there is zero incentive to use a treatment court if you've already now been punished and taking charges and convictions into the rest of your civilian life. What would be the incentive? So DA Ernie Lee is woefully incorrect there, trying to manipulate the narrative around the treatment court. And I understand that in his position, he gets to decide what goes in the treatment court. And it's a shame that in his legacy, he is going to have a legacy where in a combat veteran community surrounding one of the largest bases in this country, in the state of North Carolina, he's determining that combat veterans that might have a run-in with the law that's related to PTSD or TBIs isn't going to be given the opportunity to do the treatment court in one of the largest counties with the largest amount of combat veterans. So that's going to be his legacy. And that's what gets me worked up as a spouse. If I can't be his advocate, I need everyone else to help me with that. I need everyone else to amplify this, because everyone I can think of knows a veteran somehow. It's amazing how interconnected we all actually are. And the messages I receive as a spouse, I receive messages from fellow warfighters. They message me on social media. Hey, Adriana, I'm your husband's story. Or, hey, that's my husband. I'm just so lucky my husband didn't get caught by the police when he was having his crisis. And that's tragic. Like, that is a really tragic thing that I'm starting to see now that I've had the courage and Michael's had the courage to go public with our story more. And that tells me we have to do more. So if anyone here is listening that is connected to governors like Roy Cooper of North Carolina, or our governor in Virginia here, Glenn Youngkin, please reach out to me. Please tell me how you can help me get our message there, because this might have to be something our elected officials get involved in, since we've just been unable to move that needle in Onslow County with the local level, with the DA and the prosecutor's office there. So please reach out to me. I will never not listen. I will never not answer a call, a message. And I want to tell spouses and warfighters and veterans, you are not alone. And I don't mean that in a cliche way because it's 9/11. I genuinely mean I have spent so many nights crying alone, long after I've put my children to bed, long after I've put him to bed. And I've cried having no one to talk to. Who do I get to talk to? Who do I get to lean on? And so I want to be that for other people. If you're seeing this and you're having a bad night, find me on social media. If you happen to have my personal information, reach out to me. I will always answer you. I never want you to feel like you're alone, because you are not alone. I am here for you. And we need to be together through things like this, because like I said, this is the collateral damage to war. We have no problem sending our men and women into battle. We have no problem training these elite war fighters to do the hard work for our government. And then they're just cast aside when they're no longer useful. And no one should be left to feel that way. And if GWAT has done nothing else, it has shown that they will support each other. I am so impressed with all the nonprofits that have been stood up, and private businesses, all stood up by GWAT veterans for each other, and then also for their communities. And that's what makes, I think, veterans so special. And as a civilian myself, we need to value the special skills and abilities that our men and women that were in uniform bring to our communities. Like, they're really special people, because again, they voluntarily serve our country. There is no draft. There was no draft for 9/11. There's no draft currently, though we might be heading there. If we send a message with our story that you will be punished if you develop wartime injuries, we won't have an elite warfighting force. We just won't have it. They'll have to go back to a draft. And they already have right now an armed huge issue. It's a systemic problem that the the Pentagon can't seem to get their head around, which we could go into that's a whole other discussion. But I think what's important here is that my husband's story, because through this grassroots communication world of social media, which, by the way, is so powerful. Haram, thank you for having us on here. This is another example of how there are so many platforms that we can all be interconnected on. And I'm an everyday regular American. I get up every day like you. I put my kids at school. I go to work all day. I go to the grocery store. I'm a regular person. And so the fact that we can communicate with each other through this grassroots communication world of social media is really quite shocking and been really special. And I really am grateful for everyone that's taken the time to communicate and amplify our story. But I think what's important with that is that we continue to find each other to get to our elected officials. They have no problem using my warfighter and others for parades and campaign slogans and sound bites on news stations to get our vote. Well, what are you doing for my veteran when he had a crisis? What are you going to do to make sure he doesn't just go to prison like some low-life criminal that's plaguing our society, which we all have seen? We know what low-life criminals look like. We deal with them you turn on the news. DC was rated the least desirable city to live in as of last week. And that's just near us, obviously. What does that tell us? We know what real criminals look like. He is not a real criminal, and it's not fair what's happening to us. And it's a cautionary tale to all combat veterans that have PTSD, TBIs, or on different types of medications from either their private doctors or the VA. It is a cautionary tale, and it's going to scare our younger generation.
Do me a favor, Mike. Since we're having technical difficulties, right, we're going to go off and on. So when I say go, you go. All right? That's how it comes. So Andrea, Mike, I love you guys. We speak the same language. So for a lot of people, if you like this segment of LinkedIn Perspective, share it, like it, tag it, feel on, look us up on LinkedIn and live on the YouTube channel. Also, you can look up for Mike and Andrea on LinkedIn, which I've connected. And Mike, we come from the same cloth but different generations. You get what I'm saying? So I followed your story, and we're tied with the community, with the war fighters. And I know about the community being relocated from Camp Pendleton all the way out to North Carolina. And it blows my effing mind that the judge and the governor, they're probably related to Sleepy Joe, no offense, but how they can undermine the mentality of a military person or the military community, a military spouse, and understand the dynamics of what is qualified for Veterans Court. Here in Southern California, I have a good friend of mine. His name is Charles Keaton. He's the partner. He's been able to help veterans. He was going to be an officer in the Marine Corps. I'll just give you a tangent. And then the commissioner was in the military. They specifically work with veterans here in Southern California for those types of incidents like you and like yourself and Andrea, Mike. But the biggest thing that people don't really understand, as we stated before, right, is that one, not everybody's your friend. Two, they use you to abuse you to get what they want. And until they've done with you, it's no shame or game for them. The other factor is don't play the veteran card out of a warfighter's expense because you don't know what's going on. So I see the background, the flag, Mike. I see the paddle. I see everything else. People don't really understand what the meaning of give it all you got every day, and people don't really understand that we are human. We have issues. But the thing about it is that unless you haven't been in that situation, it is impossible for you to justify or counter or unvalidate what the circumstances. Myself, real quick, as a combat veteran, I have TBI, I have PTSD, I had a sponsor, my psychiatrist, my psychologist, Shauna Springer, that put me in the SGB group. I had all that intense therapy. It works. But the biggest thing is this is a classic example. If I'm using you guys, Mike and Andrea, because this happened 22 years ago. You guys were young. You decided to make a strong business decision based on emotion, Mike. And then you created a family. So I'm going to mute myself. So it's you time. Go, Tag, you're it.
Thank you, Haram. Yeah, it, it is difficult, I think, for a lot of people to understand. And for that, I've tried to, share some of those things, share some of the points of view that we have, I think, as veterans. And I've been trying to put some of that out there on podcasts, so that there's more contextual information. We all had our own lives, like you said, leading up to 9/11. And then on that day, everything changed. And we answered that patriotic call to duty. And I think that there's something special about that because, we made an agreement with our nation that we would support and defend it and put our lives on the line. But the totality of what that really says is our life. Like that's everything, your hopes and your dreams, all the friends that you find and the relationships you build only to have them torn away by the horrors of war. And it's going through all of that. It's losing, touch with all of the people that you grew up with because your paths split and, you don't have the opportunity to maintain relationships with people when you're gone for half of the year, every year. And I think that there's a degree of, perhaps America has lost a little bit of touch with its warrior class. And I think that, it's time we rehabilitate that because if you look at history, coming out of World War II, that generation, the greatest generation, they are the ones that rebuilt America into the prosperous and bountiful country that it was, that allowed us to flourish and our generation to be raised in the way it was. Pax Americana is a real thing. And that was all on the backs of World War II veterans. And now we have an opportunity with the global war on terrorism coming to a close, a whole new generation of Americans, especially with America having its identity crisis as it is today, and we're facing adversity in our country and beyond, we're being challenged by powers of other nations that have the ability to usurp our position on the world stage. And that is a very scary thing when you look at how the warrior class has been disenfranchised, has been cast aside and marked as toxic. The warrior class is what creates the foundation for morals, values, and ethics in a country. And you can look across civilizations through history to find that. It's all there.
So, as the spouse of a special forces operator, Something that I live with is that my husband eats, breathes, and sleeps serving his country. So when he got out of the military, he could have done a million things with his life. He could have walked away from the industrial complex of the military. He could have done anything he wanted to do with his life. And what did he do? He went right back into the industry to continue to serve. Because right when Michael was getting out, the rise of ISIS was coming. And he said, oh, no, I didn't just serve in these wars to let ISIS come in and undermine everything I've lost friends along the way for. I've almost lost my own life. I'm not doing that. So he continued to serve as a defense contractor to continue to serve the larger complex, because that's how much he loves his fellow American. And being married to somebody like that is so inspiring. And I think all spouses of veterans can probably relate to something that I'm saying right now. But what I want to talk about with special operations is that, and I don't know if this is across the rest of, the armed forces, but they're taught to be quiet professionals. So they come home and they don't, they take off the kit, they put their helmet away, and they're now dads. They're reading stories. They're putting their girls' hairs in ponytails. They're, helping them brush their teeth. They're doing math homework. They're cooking. They're cleaning. They got laundry to do. You got trash to take out. They're just like regular, everyday people. And they're taught not to talk about their time. They're taught not to talk about that. And the thing about those memories, that no matter how hard, like in my husband's case, no matter how hard he pushed those horrors, those traumas he experienced away, they came out physiologically. They come out in symptoms. They come out in insomnia. They come out in hypervigilance. They come out in inabilities to let down your guard and show emotion. It takes, my husband's one of the most stoic people I know. And I know stoicism is such a permeating thing for special operations veterans and special operators. And I know that goes hand in hand with their training in order to survive in and out of combat when they're on those type of in that wartime environment, in that wartime training environment. Because it's not just times of war. Our special operators are training and doing special covert missions regardless of time of war. So as a spouse, to have to support someone and say, hey, you can come talk to me, is really challenging to do. And our story is now reaching other people to show them like, hey, you're not alone. You should not be ashamed to get the help you need and to lean on each other and to talk about your traumas and be ashamed of them. There's no shame. And I think our society deserves to see that they're not infallible creatures. I mean, he's a human being and everyone's got chinks in their armor. And it's tragic that it took this incident for my husband in particular to get the help he really needed. And he's been through so many amazing programs since what happened. I mean, when I tell you the GWOC community wraps its arm around each other, it wraps its arms around the veteran community. I mean, we've had people come out and say, hey, I want to help him get SGB. I want to help him with PTSD. I want him to come to my brain clinic and go through a program. I want to help him potentially get a support dog when this is all over so that he can have that permanent comfort with him and support with him through a dog. So it's really amazing to see what people are really willing to do. And that should send a message. So if there's operators out there watching this, or veterans or people in service, there are things for you. Do not feel ashamed to raise your hand and work through your channels to get the access to things you need. And if our prosecutor attached to our case is seeing this or hears about this, I hope she's ashamed that she had the nerve to tell our legal team essentially that, well, if he had trouble with the VA, why didn't he just go for private help through private insurance? Like, how disrespectful to insult what veterans should be able to trust and rely on, which is the very system set up for them. And it's an insult. And that shows you how tone deaf the community, the legal community right around Onslow County truly is, to say something so flippant and disrespectful to a combat veteran. That shame on you shame on you as the victim. Shame on you for not knowing better than the VA, because that's the tone and that's the way it's received on this end. And if she's seeing this today, she should be ashamed of herself for what she said to us. And I have no problem saying that on this. I have no problem saying that anywhere. And I just want to echo that don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed.
My turn. Okay. Hey, so great job. And this is the thing that I'm talking about, right? Look, Andrea, Mike, I feel your pain, right? I feel your pain to the point where people really don't get it. And people look at me, and I'll just use this as a sidebar conversation. I do a lot of things for the veteran community. Yeah, I do it because I love it. I do it because we're part of the family. We, in the sense of we are family in the corporate world, that's a red flag. In the veteran community, that speaks volumes, right? When I call you brother or sister, that's out of respect, that's out of love. Hey, brother, I got your back. Hey, brother, hey, sister, we got your back. What's up with your wife? What's going on? We're going to make sure while you're out of pocket, you're over there on the cross of the pond. We're going to do what we need to do. You know, we're going to talk to her and see what needs to get done, because everybody has their threshold of stress. Everybody gets emotional. So a lot of people don't really understand and get the fact that right now, prior to 9/11, with everything that, and I know, Mike, you've seen a lot of it. I've dealt with the guys in the community. You know, I got a good friend of mine, Fred Galvin, right? Commanding officer, Mossock 7, you know about it. My other buddy, Josh, Danny, and Eric, Mossock 3. Okay? So when we talk about that community, it really pisses me off because to no end. But at the same time, right? And I use this, I'll put this. They were not found guilty, not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4, 5 times. UCI judgment in Onslow, in Camp Pendleton, Camp Lejeune. Major General Tolliver, I won't forget that name, gives him a sidebar. You're going to get a felony for drinking. Court martial. We got Congressman. Now we're going back to you, Mike and Andrea. Here's the thing. People don't get it when they don't understand the relevance of the day-to-day chores. You guys have a relationship. You guys have been married with each other. You've shared your private, intimate stuff. This is where, excuse my language, the shit hits the fan and we're going to play games, right? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And this is exactly what's going on right now. So my whole thing on this platform on LinkedIn is to advocate not only for you and your wife, right, but for the community. And I love the shirt because I looked at Massa Mike. I got to get one. Extra large, bro. So I got it. All right. And I'll be showcasing because I got a lot of the shirts. But needless to say, getting back to the daily chores of what's going on, people don't know the level of stress and your character that's been, trampled on. You can have bad health, you can have bad finances, you can have issues, but when they mess with your character and you lose your character, it's a game changer. It's over. So my whole purpose on today's day is to be able to give you guys the platform, because it's all about giving back, right? All these people like cloud chasers, non-profit, I don't really give a shit, to be quite honest with you. I don't. And because it's my show, I can do it. Thank you, LinkedIn. I appreciate everything that's done. But at the same time, as a veteran myself, it's about putting your money where your mouth is, right? Don't write any checks you can't cash. And now we're going to be writing some checks. At the same time, we need to support you and your wife, especially because I have my wife, she's sleeping, she says, well, you can do it. I got to get a podcast. So she falls in it. But you can be successful all you want. But if you don't have a partner to share the good times and the bad times, it's relevant. Your turn. Go.
Well, I have the best partner for me. There's no one else that I would want to go through this challenge and through this journey with. So fortunate to have Adriana, as my best friend. I think that hits on a very relevant part of this. The spouses and families, oftentimes they're forgotten. So much focus is put on the veteran for what we've been through, but I don't think enough is done for the spouses, because just like there's all these great programs and opportunities for us to heal, we're starting to find out that the stress that we put our spouses through locks them in fight or flight. And so there's an amazing organization, Donovan and Bank, in the special operations community that is going to facilitate Adriana to be able to get SGB. So there's some success out there, but this is also about raising the awareness, because through what I've had to go through, it's given me a platform. It's given me an opportunity to be able to go out there and share my story and speak out. And with that, I realize that it's much bigger than me. I'm wearing this bracelet, Justice for Marine Raiders. It's a thing. For some reason, the warrior class is being challenged very heavily right now. Whether that's the active duty component, the veterans, or the youth that is getting ready to grow into the ones that will go serve. Everyone is being challenged, and right now, as a society, we need to come together and reinforce the support for those elements so that we can continue to have the prosperity and freedoms that we do. So I think that is a positive, place that we can try and push our efforts. And I think that my story is an opportunity to make a larger movement happen, to find the opportunity to lock shields and go fight this together.
Andrea.
Yes, I couldn't have said it better than my husband. I have become so resilient through this experience. I too saw my husband to a degree as infallible. I didn't realize how many chinks in the armor there were until this tragedy. Because there's just, there is no one size fits all to PTSD and TBI. It is truly unique to the individual. And that care will change and should change and tailor as you progress in your life with those injuries. And it is tragic that this happened. It's made me more resilient. It's made me extremely motivated to advocate more and to show other spouses, don't be silent. You do not have to suffer in silence. There is no shame. If you think your veteran at home is struggling, reach out to me, reach out to the VA, reach out to nonprofits. Use the resources that there are out there. Don't feel like you shouldn't. I literally cold contacted people after what happened to my husband. I just straight up sent emails. I left voicemails. I knocked on doors practically. I did everything I could to be a support for him. And really, it's an extension to my family because I have 3 girls. We have 3 little girls. They're counting on me to protect their father, who's being vilified by the legal system down there in North Carolina and being largely ignored, it almost feels like, by our elected officials that are at the state and local level. It's like, where were you? I voted for you. Why are you not helping me with these issues? That's what you're here for. Because right now it's a legal fight. So it's not, guns and swords and kit don't help in this story right now. Right now, it's about the law. And if we have to change the laws, then let's change the laws. Like, let's look at what needs to happen. But I can't do that alone. And I don't have the experience or the resources for that. But I'm not afraid to knock on doors, make phone calls, send emails, do what I need, whatever I can. And I hope that other spouses see that and have hope that it's not in vain. I've had people call me back. I've had state, local representatives call me back. Now, I think in our particular story, the fight is long from over. They're playing a lot of strategic games in Onslow County right now. And so it probably will take some intervention, probably at like a governor level. And unfortunately, we're fighting to try to get there, to get to our governors respectively here. So Roy Cooper in North Carolina and Glenn Youngkin in Virginia. So again, if you're seeing this, please, 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 please do not think that you're bothering me or Michael or Haram or anyone else who's working with us or trying to support us. If you have an inroad, let us know. Like, let us get that 10 minutes with one of them and explain the story. I would like to think Roy Cooper, the governor, wants to support us. He just doesn't know about this right now.
I think another aspect that helps people understand the fruits of their labor are valued is that through all of this, we're building the playbook for how to fight this. I've started a nonprofit after my incident, and so we will carry on the fight after this, even no matter what happens, whatever the outcome is for me. No one's efforts will go in vain, right? So any connections, networking, relationships, doors that you can open, that will facilitate future support for veterans, for service members, and for the community for that.
So, Mike, look, this is what, and Andrea, this is what a lot of people don't understand, and the veteran community really doesn't understand, since I've been up way before you guys, Mike. The transition state 30 years ago, no social media. Here's your discharge. See you later. Don't let the door hit you in your ass on the way out. Now, here's what's going on, that we're losing the battle in our own country, which is our own version of domestic terrorism against the veterans when they're having challenges. Now, the reason why I say that domestic terrorism is this. If you put it in a scope of work, is this. You sign a blank check. 4th of July comes in, Memorial Day comes in, Veteran Days come in, the Marine Corps birthday comes in, all these. Simplify. Hey, Double Dog, we're doing fine. Let's go to ball. Now what? Oh, Mike just lost his job. Andrea just lost his job. I feel sorry for them. Oh, Andrea and Mike has 3 little girls. There's nothing we can do for it. What is it that you can't do? So when I'm saying domestic terrorism, right, there's nonprofits. Go to this place, go to VA. I used to work for the VA. I worked for TED for 10 years. That's a planet, that's a galaxy on its own. Trust me. You park your spaceship in the wrong med board. They give you meds like you're going to Costco and Sam's Club, So a lot of people don't understand. I speak the truth. Now, when we talk about this situation right here, Mike and Andrea, this is why I say prior to 9/11, domestic terrorism against veterans, because when we come home, look what happened after 22 years. Look what happened after Afghanistan after 2 years. Look what I just saw on the news with Sleepy Joe. And then we had the morning news. And, what's the other General Miley, who retired? Alvarado, sniper, was able to take the insurgent out, right? Called it. And you know what? They played it down. My point is, here's the point. Now the guy was on Sean Ryan's show. He's missing an arm. He's missing an arm. He's missing 2 legs. He's done for the rest of his life. There's nothing in this world that you can do to replace those legs and arms. That's my point of domestic terrorism within the veteran community, because we're being terrorized, because we're not set up for success to be able to have the transitional states or the resources to be able to help people like yourself, especially you, Andrea, and the little girls, because we're treated like outcasts. Nobody wants to take it like that. But at the same time, I'm calling it out because it's real. So my whole point is, that's why, Mike, when you do this nonprofit, just put it out there, I'll be there. But I just wanted to share that with you. And I'm going to mute myself, but I need to hear from both of you why you want to do it on this platform specifically. I know you did it with Mike Ritland out there in Texas, but you go for it. Go.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you why I think the LinkedIn platform is so special is this is a professional setting. Like, this is where people put their best face forward in theory in a professional capacity, where they can put pen to paper, where they can put rubber meets the road. Like, this is what they do with their careers. Like, and if you're in a position that can influence and support, then do so. That's what LinkedIn is for. LinkedIn is not just your personal page to go to and post photos of your favorite restaurant meal. That's not what LinkedIn is for. LinkedIn is supposed to be a platform to showcase and highlight what you're doing in American society in a professional setting. And that's why being on this platform is so important, because I know there's people sitting on key boards and panels, whether it's in the government or in the private industry, that can be like force multipliers for change with us. And we want to see them come out and support us. So please contact me. I'm on there. I'm very vocal on there. I myself work in the DoD community as well. So, the idea of being a quiet professional also applies to me for the most part. And I've had to really find the strength to be as loud as I've been, as vocal as I've been. And I have no regrets on doing that. So please, I check my LinkedIn regularly. I check it all the time. So if you're on here and you want to support us in any capacity that you can as a force multiplier on this issue, please do so, because I absolutely respond. Haram can tell you, I respond. I am very, very responsive.
So for me, I think that this platform offers an opportunity to expose this to a community that has a different perspective on things. So LinkedIn is professional. So employment and employees, employers, and within that, veterans have the opportunity to be force multipliers within organizations. The traits and leadership skills and experience that we have from serving in high stress situations transfers very well into the business world, into the private sector. But in order for that to be something that is productive and effective, we have to do better on how we treat our warrior class, how we help them through adversity, how we help them heal from the things that we ask them to go do. And I think that this platform offers a different perspective in that it can open those doors towards a lot more productive outcomes, and it isn't just about the advocacy element. It's about having real change, having effects on the ground, and having that be relevant in a way that it can happen faster and sooner than later.
So look, Mike, this is what I'm saying. If you see the background of New York City where I grew up, that's ground zero. You'll see the Freedom Tower. You'll see the Twin Towers. And the biggest thing that people don't understand is a couple of things, right? I'm all for supporting you and Andrea for a number of reasons, because I get it. I get it. You don't need to be, I was there or I was there. You just got to get it. So, Mike, to your point, the biggest thing that I'm going to have a biggest concern is that the transition state of the operator community, the tier levels are going to be dropping down the standard so much that anybody can do it. And then as well as as a contractor, right, that's a whole different perspective, because you're not held by the government, but you're liable for certain things, but you see more things that you can't say. And then, and Andrea knows, right, from coming to the operations community in the Marine Corps, from being a contractor, going across the pond and seeing exactly what's going on, that you see it from a foreigner's perspective. And then what infuriates you and your wife is we're on home turf and we're being treated like second-class citizens. Not only that, but we're losing the rights, but you're going to say, oh, thank you for your service. Honestly, I get sick and tired of that bullshit. Thank you for your service. Honestly, I'm done with that crap, because not all, and I have to stress this, and here's the reality of 2023 to 2024. Not every veteran is going to support a veteran. Not every nonprofit is going to take care of a veteran. Not every job is going to hire a veteran. That is the fact. Or we take care of, we're veteran friendly, which is bullshit. I call it. I see it. So now, with the stressors of the community, from your point, Andrea, as a mother, as a wife, right? As somebody that's been part of the community, as part of the first responder, you're being emotionally holding down the fort from a maternal instinct to be able to support your husband, to support the kids, right? Your daughters don't know better. This is all they know. This is all they know. And when they get older, they're going to see the difference. But you guys is doing the best to protect the family, that protection, right? And I think the biggest thing that people don't get it, I'm telling you, they don't get it, is that we understand you. Bullshit. I call it all day. It's bullshit, bullshit. I can say that because people use bullshit on anything. Even on prime time, they say bullshit. So I can say that. It's bullshit all the way across. It's bullshit when it's and at the end of the day, Mike, you know and I know, the worst thing you can do is be at somebody's funeral when they're carrying that casket and they're, you're getting pissed because you wish you could have done something. Andrea, you've been there talking to the wives, knowing that they're just holding that freaking flag that's right behind you. Now that's all they got, right? But they're not doing anything else. So, I'm down for it. So your turn, go.
Yes. It's I don't know. I'm kind of speechless, actually. I think you really summed it up well. I think that I personally, I always try to have a very positive outlook on things. But when you call it and put it into perspective like that, that's the reality. That's the reality of what we're facing right now. The numbers of 22 veterans a day committing suicide is real.
And how many of those were combat vets?
Yeah.
Because it feels like there's a two-tiered system of veterans. There's combat vets and other vets. And I hate to say that because I love all vets, but I think what's important to the distinction there is, the DA in Onslow County ran on a ticket that he's a veteran and he supports veterans. Yeah, but what are you doing for combat vets? Because I don't believe he saw combat. And the injuries and the disabilities that combat veterans basically acquire for this country need to be recognized. And it's like my husband didn't fit his definition of a deserving veteran in need of the treatment court and just a reasonable agreement from a legal perspective. It's like he didn't deserve it because he doesn't fit in some narrow box that like DA Ernie Lee determined deserves help. And that really bothers me and really resonates with me. And I hope citizens in Onslow County, if they're watching this in a professional capacity on LinkedIn, see this. Watch who you elect. Watch who you vote for. Because if you're a combat vet or you're a spouse of a combat vet down there in that county, apparently we don't count. Apparently we're not real. Our husbands, our wives' injuries aren't real because they're not convenient. They're not sound bites to run on to get reelected for the 5th or 6th time, because that's what's going on down in that county. And I hate doing that in this setting, but I am unapologetic about it. Because I think it's a disgrace that my husband risked his life and went into war on the front lines. He almost died how many times? He has so many injuries from combat and heavy training to even get into combat that's often not talked about too. The toll that training takes on a warfighter. And it's embarrassing and it's shameful that the county right around Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune is tone deaf to combat veterans when they're living in civilian life, just like Haram mentioned. There's skill bridge and off-ramping out of the military is still so far from where it needs to be. And these warfighters go from being in a routine structured with their brothers and sisters in uniform to like nothing right away, nothing. And a lot of them will go to the wrong places for help. They go to drugs, they go to alcohol, they go to the VA for pills, which are just given to them like candy. And then there's devastating consequences to that. And my husband's story is that exact story. And I look back on a day like 9/11 and I'm like, man, my husband could have done so many other things with his life, but he felt so compelled to stand up when others didn't and voluntarily serve his country. He voluntarily did that. And it's a day of remembrance. And in theory, tomorrow we would have been in trial. They would have been putting my husband on the stand like a criminal on the most important day. The most important day, I would argue, one of them in his military career, because it was the day that he decided, I am going to serve. I am going to sacrifice and give away my conveniences, my freedom, my cushy, soft bed, go to college like other people did to go serve my country and fight on the front lines. And that's a day that should have been honorable for us. And they were playing games right to the 11th hour with our case. And we could have been there in Onslow tomorrow on the most important day in trial. Instead, now we're sitting here with our hands, wringing our hands, wondering what's next, because it's holding our life hostage. It's holding him getting the closure for the tragedy he experienced, me as well, with no future outcome on where that's going. And so I look back on 9/11, and I'm so proud of my husband for doing what so many other Americans didn't do then. And that is voluntarily serve. Young man, I mean, you were what, 18, 19 years old, and you said, send me, I'm going to go. And like, that's really powerful. That's a really powerful thing that I hope that our younger generations, as we edge away closer and closer away from 2001, don't forget. They can't forget, because the global war on terror really changed the game for warfare. It was not just people in uniforms fighting other people in uniforms. They went into war zones against civilians in those countries, in Afghanistan and Iraq. They didn't know who was a foe or who was a friend. And that's a different type of warfare to have to endure and experience. And it's not like the movies. And I think that that's what we can't let our younger generations forget why. And why we have men and women in the prime of their life still after their time of service in global war on terror. We need to support them in the civilian world, because they're here, they're with us. And they did something remarkable, because they voluntarily served in heavy combat that spanned 2 decades. Voluntarily. We can't do this. We can't send a message through my husband's story that you're just a criminal if you have mental health issues and you have run-in with the law. Too bad. We won't have a war fighting force. We won't have anyone in the youth that wants to serve, when society in general is morale's pretty low, pretty apathetic towards serving its country in general, not just in the military, but any kind of call to service. That's really hit a low in our society. And when they see stories like my husband's, they're going to be even less inclined to want to serve. So I don't want that to be our outcome. I know it won't be, because my husband is not a criminal, and I want people to see this and share it. And if you have people that you're connected to that could help us change the outcome of this story, please help. Like Haram said, put your pen to paper and start helping.
Oh, listen, here's the thing, Andrew, you mentioned friend or foe. This is exactly what you identified in the United States. We don't know who's friend and we don't know who's foe. And then this is exactly what's talking about when we're talking about supporting people, the veteran community. Mike, I know what you're going through, dude. I truly understand. But I don't have that level of the tier level. That's when we talk from Persian Gulf to Iraq to Afghanistan, that's a whole different ball game, bro. That is a whole different ball of wax. The mindset. And then here's the thing, when we're talking about when they say they're veterans, as you say, Andrea, it's a true faction. Veterans and combat veteran. That is that's night and day. Night and day. And the reason why I can honestly say that it doesn't fit them all, because Mike looks like a combat veteran, because I understand that. He comes from that era. If I was coming in, I'm a veteran, I'm clean cut. Perception, right? I'm just using this as perception, because people get distorted. People wear a lot of veteran gear, special op gears. Mike, you know and I know, right? You don't need to be a veteran to wear veteran gear. You can tell. And if somebody did special ops, you can tell, hey, you run good ops. I can tell. Pretty much. So people are opposing. They want to feel validated. But here's the sad story. Here's a situation that people treat it like leprosy. And they treat it in the sense like, hey, you got AIDS or you got COVID. You got this. I'm sorry, but we're going to isolate you. Based on what? It's being politically correct. People are so afraid of validating for themselves until it's the come to Jesus meeting, when it's time to check out. Oh, forgive me, man. Forgive me, God, for all the sins I did. Give back. The whole thing is giving back, right? Leave it all on the table. My whole philosophy today is with you guys is I'm passionate about this. I've been, withholding myself, but we can go to a bar. We can talk crap all day, right? We can just say it. But at the same time, for myself and other elder state veterans, we understand the dynamics of what you guys are going through. And I truly believe that you need people like us that are still around to be able to support some feedback and help you deal with the bullshit transition that we're dealing with in society. Because the bullshit transition that you're dealing with is based on a couple of things: the internet and massive social media. That wasn't happening back in 9/11. It was just starting. Okay. Now, everybody, I was a drill instructor. I've seen the guys that, they got recruits using iPhones. That's bullshit. Or you hurt my feelings. I'm sending you to court martial. That's bullshit. Mike, going out there on the firefights, you go on there on comms, you know what's happening. Head count going, head count coming back. Hey, we need backup, whatever. And then, shit happens. But at the same time, right, when you're out there on the ops, your mind's got to be focused because you can't be distracted and think about Andrea, because at that moment, something can happen. You know that, and I know that. There's only the time when you come back to base, back to the wire, you can communicate with your wife. How did it go? Everything else is still stressful because you got to bring it down a couple of clicks. People don't understand that level of mentality stays with you. It's not an on and off switch. That's why when I've gone to SGB for the treatment and the injections, it just helps you reset. It gives you an opportunity to be able to take the edge off, but it doesn't give you closure. And the thing about it is that when we as a community are fighting for your life and your rights and your character, because Mike, I've known a lot of people that have been wrongfully arrested, even on law enforcement, they get it twisted sometimes. Trust me, I know. They do. Oh, the only time that doesn't happen is you have a veteran that's a little bit lenient, but some of them, they park their spaceship in the wrong squad bay, they get stupid and they start doing stuff. Andrea, to your point, I understand that from a woman's perspective, being emotional, being stoic, women can't help but being emotional. They're built-in multitaskers. They're able to communicate. They can do 5, 7, 10 things at one time and say, honey, did you forget to throw out the trash? Right? But at the same time, it's all about family, right? It's people don't understand until it happens to you, you want your calling. So I'll leave you with this point. You guys close it out and let me know. Go.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. Let's like you said, we'll close it out, keep it focused on the task at hand, because like you said, we can't turn this on and off. It is built into who we are, and right now we're in the fight of our lives, and I'm facing 35 years as a possible sentence, and that is devastating, and so I'm treating this like I would any military operation, and I'm being very deliberate and calculated in how we're going to approach this, but I need support. We don't send anyone in without support, so I need that support now. And I would just ask that anyone that is listening, or anyone that feels inclined or knows someone that can help, please do that. Please take action. We need our elected officials to understand how their constituents feel. And in this matter, injustice is winning, and we have to turn the tables on that. And the only way that happens is if the people's voices are heard. So I need that support, and I would ask for it. Thank you.
So one other thing I want to point out in my closure as a spouse here, and that Haram did a great job pointing out, is that people only care in general in life when it directly affects them. When they have equity involved, all of a sudden they care. And I get that. I don't agree with it, but I understand it, and it could be part of the human condition. But what I cannot stress enough, and what I've learned in this experience with Michael, is besides learning who your real friends are and who your real friends aren't, is also Michael's story is not unique. We're in the fight of our life right now, but this could happen to any combat veteran. Any combat veteran with injuries to their brain and are on medication from private doctors or the VA, they could be him. This could be you. Michael lived a normal, healthy, happy life before this incident tragically took hold of our life and is now holding it hostage. So while this might not be your husband, and it might not be your wife, and it might not be your son or whatever, and it's not really your life, it could be. which is why we're asking the community to really dig in and be a little bit selfless and support us, because it could be you. You could get that phone call that I received, that I got as the spouse. You could be me. You could be him. And it is a cautionary tale. And 9/11 is such a special day to bring it back to that, because how many veterans of the global war on terror have PTSD and TBIs, in addition to other disabilities? It is prevalent among that community. And this could be you. It could be your husband. So please support us if you can. Try to see it through the lens of if it could be you, because that's the messages I receive all the time from people. That could be me. Your husband could have been me. That could have been my husband. I can't believe this. So please help us if you can.
So make sure you put your LinkedIn profiles in the chat, okay? So we can find you as well. And the last part is this. Look, 9/11 has a lot of stories. As see the background, and one of the bridges is Brooklyn. I watched the Twin Towers being built when I was a kid. Now, so many decades later, I'm still here. Not by choice, by chance. So my hope, I believe there's a purpose what I'm doing, and I'm doing what I need to do. But at the same time, as you say to Andrea, right? You're in the fight of your life. Okay? There's only one Mike, right? Mike, you got 3 girls, right? So to me, it's like a sense of urgency. People watch the news, they condition themselves to the news every freaking day, and after a while, they start believing the news, which we all know the news is pretty distorted. I'm grateful for LinkedIn because this is unedited and is raw to a point, right? I don't want to butcher, I don't want to jinx myself, but you have the right to freedom of expression, right? Freedom of religion, freedom to bear arms, right? And at the same time, if you subscribe to the channel and then you're on this platform, you're a paying customer, but you gotta buy and play nice on the playground without doing something stupid, right? But the biggest thing I can say to you guys is this, is that moving forward, we'll continue to make the fight. I talked to Dave, I talked to Fred, I talked to all the other guys. I believe that the next time you really want to get down to it and you get yourself situated, people that are a circle of influence in your area I would like for them to be on the show. And then I have a friend of mine who is a leadership strategist, I told you. His name is Marcus, and he helps people, which he's helped me, as I shared with you guys offline, of my dark side of what's going on. And he came out to help me. Out of all the connections, I have one person, right? So it's not about the connections, it's about the character of the person. So he's in Europe, but the point is, a person is a person, an alliance that builds alliance, a community, fellowship. So for you guys, it wasn't a waste of time. I know you were stressed out coming to everything audio. That's why we're going a little bit more than normal, right? To catch up and give you guys an opportunity. But Mike, I'm going to ask you one more question. And ladies they normally go first, but she's going to go last because I leave the best for last. Mike, you as an operator, you talking to me, right? What do you really want to put out there for the people in the veteran community, and what have you learned out of this program? Then the same question goes to Andrea. Go.
The biggest revelation that I took away from all of this was that I was in a place of suffering and pain and hurt that I didn't even know I was in. And that is the scary thing. If you are a GWAT veteran and you served in combat during that time frame, you need to really go get some help. It is not a curse. It isn't something that you can't heal from, but you have to go get that help. You have to be willing to go do the hard work yourself. No one's coming to save you. It's up to you. And even if you don't think you're suffering, you probably are, the body compensates, the mind compensates, and it does it over time. And a lot of my friends, that I just saw this weekend, down in Camp Lejeune in the Raider community, they've been stuck in this same place, in this fight or flight, mentality, in this, operator world. And when the music stops, that's when you have to face all of it. Your body and mind keep you vigilant and keep you operating in the manner that you need to. And when that goes away, it no longer serves its purpose. And whether you face it or not, it will come out. So I just would say, be proactive. Don't let it come out on someone else's terms. You be responsible for you. Go get treatment. If you have questions, you just want to talk to someone, get my experience, my thoughts, having gone through it, what you think you might need, reach out to me. I'm out there. I've made myself very available. That's what I have.
Yeah. As the spouse of a GWAT veteran that's been through hell and back in this experience, I'll say is to two people, to the warfighter. If you don't have a spouse or you don't have someone you feel like you could trust to talk to, you can come talk to me. I've now been through it. I've been at the lowest of the low, and I have crawled my way out of this with Michael, and the fight is still not done. But I am here for you. If you don't have someone, don't ever feel like you're alone. You are not alone. There is no shame. And there's a community of people that have dealt with this, that have been silent for far too long. And I will be your advocate. I will be there for you. And to the spouses, do not be afraid to speak up. Do not feel like you're going to let your veteran down. For a long time, you might stand on eggshells when you're dealing with special operations combat vets when they get out. You don't know you don't know what's right and what's wrong. You want to help them, but you want to support what you've always known with them, which is the quiet professional. But sometimes it takes you digging in real deep and being willing to put yourself out there and to be proactive. Like Michael said, the only person coming to save you is you. And they'll come save you if you make noise, if you raise your hand, if you turn the stone over, open the door. So don't be afraid. Have the courage. It takes courage to do what we're doing. We could have easily remained silent and hope for the best in this case. And that's not what we're going to do. If there's one thing I've learned about Marines, they are first to fight. They are not afraid, and they stand in the face of adversity. The obstacle is the way. And I've really had to embrace that as a spouse. So I encourage all spouses like myself, do not be afraid. If you are afraid or you need a boost of confidence to come out and help, or have your own story that you need help with, reach out to me. I'll put my information here at the end of the chat. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on social media. I have open the kimono, which I'm not comfortable typically doing, but I'm doing that because sometimes that's what we need to do. And I'm here for you all. And thank you for taking the time to listen. Thank you for caring enough to check in or listen to our stories or listen to Michael's podcast or reach out to Haram. Thank you for taking the time, because we live in a society that, unless it's directly affecting you, you're not encouraged to care about somebody more than just yourself. And seeing people come out shows people are being tested in this environment to really be more than just themselves, and continue to push yourself like that.
All right, guys. If you like the segment of LinkedIn Perspective, share it, like it, tag it. If you look up for Mike and Andrea, they're going to put their LinkedIn profiles on the chat as well. But Mike and Andrea, just stand by. Don't go nowhere. If you like this segment of LinkedIn Perspective, share it, like it, tag it. Feel free to be able to make your comments. Don't share this segment of LinkedIn Perspective. It's on YouTube. I'll send the link to you both here in a little bit. But final thoughts, right? As a Christian person, I always believe in giving back, right? Bible is basically instructions before leaving earth. And I believe that for the most part, that, I'm saying this, I'll read this up there. For the most part, as a Christian, you got to be able to be a faithful servant and serve and be a public servant to people that really need the assistance, right? And it's not about things. It's about feelings. It's about the emotional support. It's the community. It's things that be able to understand the dynamics of what it is when people are at their lowest point in their life. It's like if you see the high level of homelessness and people are lacking jobs, you wish you weren't there. And at the same thing, that you need that support on a daily basis because it happens to everyone. You can't tell me it won't happen to you, because the minute you say it won't, it's going to. So thank you all. Enjoy your Sunday. You guys stand by, and we'll have another segment of LinkedIn Perspective. If you want something different, I know this is not going to be over, Mike and Andrea. Get some more people. We'll talk. Simplify, always beside you. Don't go nowhere. Peace out.